Radio.
Are you ready for this? Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Wednesday, June the 11th, 2014, and welcome to the BCS Experience. History, arts, culture, politics, in review and discussion. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. The BCS Experience takes a look at our rich history, African American history. We're going to share with you some known and unknown historical facts and information from the past and connect the dots on how they have impacted on our present day events and how they will definitely shape our future as African Americans in this country and around the world. The BCS Experience, history, arts, culture, politics in review and discussion. This is Internet Radio and will be aired live every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. from the studios of the BW Moving Images on the GoPro Radio Network. You know, I'm really excited about this opportunity to talk to you all across the country and around the globe. You see, I want you to tune in every week on your computer or your cell phone or your phone. And I want you to become a loyal listener. And I personally invite you to lend your voice to this radio talk show to express your opinions and on my weekly topics. You know, this is social network radio at its finest. Now, here's the number for you to call to be a part of the discussion. Call 347-884-9839. Once again, that number to call is 347-884-9839. This week's topic, oh my goodness, the world seems to be in a constant crisis. We've got gun violence in America, domestic violence in our families and our homes, bombings at airports, attacks on women worldwide, vanishing planes, racism, hatred, bigotry all across America, kidnapped young girls in Nigeria. How do you handle all of this stress and keep from losing your mind? That's this week's topic. Listen, my show is the New Underground Railroad Express. Next stop is your neighborhood. All aboard to freedom and to freedom land. But before we meet tonight's guest, some history. Put it into context. The date, it's Monday. It's June the 11th, 1883. And on this date, Charlotte Eugenia Hawkins Brown was born. She was an African American civic leader and educator who founded the Palmer Institute, a prep school for African Americans, argued against lynchings, and was in favor of interracial cooperation. Charlotte Hawkins Brown was born in Henderson, North Carolina, but the family moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1888. There, they operated a boarding house for Harvard students and a laundry. Around the time she graduated from Cambridge English High School, Charlotte attracted the interest and support of Alice Freeman Palmer. In 1902, Hawkins founded the Alice Freeman Palmer Institute in Sedalia, North Carolina, in honor of her mentor. Palmer Institute began as a vocational school, but its curriculum evolved until it was a strictly academic institution and was considered one of the finest preparatory schools for African Americans in the United States. In addition to running the Palmer Institute, Brown fought tirelessly for African American civil rights, lecturing in opposition to lynching and in favor of interracial cooperation. She helped to found the National Council of Negro Women, the North Carolina State Federation of Negro Women's Clubs, and the North Carolina Teachers Association. She was also on the national board of the YWCA. Brown served as the president of Palmer Institute for 50 years before retiring in 1952. Even in retirement, however, she continued to act as the financial director of the school and was deeply involved on its board of directors until her death in 1961. In 1983, the Charlotte Hawkins Brown Historical Foundation was incorporated. They established North Carolina's first historic site honoring either an African American or a woman on the Palmer Institute campus. My, what a very powerful woman this was. My goodness. You didn't know about that history, I'm willing to bet you. But the person that's on my show tonight, I know she knows all about this particular institution. Anyway, I want to hear from you. Let's connect the dots and make sense out of it all. Let's talk. Call me, 347-884-9839. Tonight, once again, I have a very special featured call-in guest. Joining me in the studio as my featured call-in guest is none other than the Reverend Dr. D.L.C. Boyce, a Christian certified psychotherapist, and she has a new book out that's about to be released this week, I understand, and it's really a book that talks about how to deal with crisis and everyday issues in your life. Dr. Boyce, welcome back to the BCS Experience. How are you this evening?
I greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
How are you?
Grace and peace all around. Now Dr. Boyce, what do you know about Palmer Institute? What do you really know?
Well, what I really know is that in 1968, I left Brooklyn, New York, amidst a teacher strike that lasted several months, and I headed toward North Carolina with my mom and started a period at Palmer Memorial Institute, and it did a great deal to shape my life.
My goodness.
Charlotte Hawkins Brown had a niece there while I was there. If I remember, her name was Lisa Scott. And I was just blessed yesterday, just kind of going through, I'm trying to navigate the Facebook pages.
Yes.
I had some wonderful teachers, yours truly, and Byron Saunders, and Andre Darden, and I kicking and screaming. But I say that because I just happened to, it's like the Lord led me, just kind of go through your list.
Yes.
I'm learning to say thank you to people who like the, and I ran across Taji Anderson, someone who was there when I attended.
Yes.
It was a wonderful experience, especially for those, in Palmer, we came from all over the country.
That's right.
A lot of the black doctors and lawyers and et cetera sent their children there to get them away from the city, or, to expose them to a finer quality of life in terms of education and Christendom. Before I was there, I'm trying to remember, not Good Times, Moving On Up. What was the name of that show?
Yes,
that was with
right.
George Jefferson.
Yes. Moving On Up to the East Side. Moving On Up. I think that was it. That was the song, at least.
That was the song.
Yes, Moving On Up
the first
to the East Side.
son, he also attended Palmer.
Is that
Memorial
right?
Institute.
Well, do you know the daughter that was the interracial daughter attended Hampton for a minute?
Not the son. The son attended.
No, the daughter. Well, the daughter attended Hampton.
I see.
Yes.
Well, see, we've been following
all this time.
We've been following track.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, because you and I graduated from Hampton. That's correct. Yeah, it was just wonderful. Especially coming from Brooklyn, New York, and again, the period was 1968. So much was happening in the black community.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful opportunity to be able to be on a campus where you had teachers who cared
Really cared about
your
you.
education.
That's right. That's right. Now, you know what's really amazing to me is that, unbeknownst to you and myself, because every week I go to the African American Registry to get my history. I post it every single day on my Facebook page. I am very serious about educating our folks, young and old, about our black
Yes.
history. And
Oh,
you
yes.
and unbeknownst to me, this story was in this week's acknowledgement of African American history about Miss Brown and Palmer Institute, which shows once
You-
again a mighty move of God, who
Oh, yes.
is large and in charge. And I am convinced that as part of my spiritual journey, to have that information to be posted, and then for you as my featured guest to have gone to that school, only that can happen through
That's only
divine
God.
intervention. Okay,
That is only the move of God.
that's right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Boyce, we
Yes.
have a world in crisis.
Oh, yes,
Oh
we do.
my goodness gracious,
Yes, we
Dr. Boyce.
do.
I sometimes when I have to do my show, I really want to make sure I connect our dots with the history of our past, letting people realize just how important our history is and the shoulders that we stand upon. You stand upon some mighty shoulders of some women who have been heroes and sheroes, paving the way for many women, not just here in this country, but around the world. And
Oh, yeah.
one of the things that I am most interested in is how they survived the crises. Because the crises that we are engaged in right now can't be any more than the lynchings back in her day. The
Yeah.
fact that she created a school for young women
And then
and men.
it was co-ed.
That's right, it was a co-ed, but literally an opportunity during a time when most folks weren't even creating schools for black people. Okay? So I mean, we're looking at the semblance of the crises then and the crises now, because there's some stuff going on now that I am sure are driving people somewhere close to madness. How do they cope?
It's very interesting. I remember that the Freedmen's Bureau
Yes.
was played a significant role in establishing a lot of the colleges like Hampton and
Yes.
Fisk and
Tuskegee. Right.
And I attended Palmer, and again, it was the 60s, and I came from Brooklyn, and
Mhm.
I was there. So the next school I attended, also in North Carolina, was Laurinburg Institute,
Yes.
and that was a school that was founded by E.M. and her husband, McDuffie.
Yes.
So you had these, like Charlotte Hawkins Brown, you had these schools that were established, but what you have to envision is that they were set up almost like forts because they were in North Carolina.
Yes.
And in order to protect us, the students, from the Ku Klux Klan that was outside, they had these protective walls
Yes.
of a sort. So they would set, outside of, and for example, Palmer was near Greensboro.
Yes.
So they were set outside and away from the city, but they were very protective. And of course, the element of price was very significant, as well as high academic standards
Absolutely.
in both settings. In the case of Laurinburg, initially they would capture in their bosom those students that had a lot of difficulty, particularly coming from the New York area, who may have had experience with court and that kind of thing. And then it was like suddenly God just changed the whole dynamics.
Right.
And they began to reach out to a larger community, and they were gathering the creme, more or less,
The creme de
come
la
in,
creme.
because these were going to be the people who would turn the world upside down.
Our future leaders. Dr. Boyce, I have to
Our
take a break
future
here.
leaders.
I got to take a break
Okay.
here. I got another caller on the line, so don't nobody go anywhere. I want you to stay on because we're going to help you get through these crises that we are engaged in right now. You're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You want to know the truth, folks? Do you really want to know the truth? Well, perhaps you can't handle the truth. But if you can listen to GoPro Radio. Tune in at www.goproradio.com. Now, have I made myself clear?
GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head. I know I do.
Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy, is starting off July with a whole new lineup on Wednesday with 2 new fireworks shows. Starting July 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern, be ready, GoProtos, to boost your confidence and accept the nerd within with cheerleader and founder of Nerdy Girl Wellness, Emile Lamont, with her new show, Nerdy Girl Wellness Hour. Next, at 5 p.m., enjoy the ride and experience history on the BCS Experience as host Byron C. Saunders discusses history, art, culture, and politics in review. Then at 6 p.m., Deshaun Farad will be brightening up the world with his new show, Worldwide, as he delves into issues affecting blacks across the globe. Right after that, at 7 p.m., join journalist Earl Morgan on the Earl Morgan Hour as he spends the hour with good books, breaking news, and great guests. Then flying in at 8 p.m. with hot topics and fiery discussion is Kay Thompson Live with the legendary radio host Kay Thompson of Inner City Broadcasting's WLIP and her son, renowned actor Eric Payne, who starred in films such as Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, Drop Squad, and many more. Then at 9 p.m., cooking things up is Food Rap, featuring Shauna Glover and Nina Markel. Talk never tasted so good when it's all about good eating, food in the news, and great recipes. After that, at 10 p.m., is the Sexy Party Show with the bad boy of dating, Mr. Lucario of I Love New York fame, and his partners in crime, Miles Cunningham and pleasure expert Anita G. Last but not least, at 11 p.m. for the grand finale is Black Agenda TV Express, ending the fireworks with sought-out political commentator Glenn Ford, formerly of America's Forum. So listen to the voices in your head every Wednesday, starting July 2nd from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the GoPro Radio Network. Go to www.goproradio.com. That's www.goproradio.com. Listen to the voices in your head.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, now we're back on the BCS Experience, and I mean amazing how this network, the GoPro Radio Network, is growing, folks. We got new shows coming up, so see, you can stay on and stay listening and get informed and be entertained from my show all the way up through interesting topics, food, recipes, and even for those who are trying to get a little something on in the evening, we got it all the way to the end when you can say goodnight to your loved one right after the talk show phenomena known as the GoPro Radio Network. Anyway, we're back on the BCS Experience. I've got my good friend, Reverend Dr. DLC Boyce, and we have another caller on the line. Let's bring everybody back in. Good evening. Welcome, area code 678. And who might you be?
This is Reverend Gant with the SCLC Stop the Violence Now.
Reverend Gant in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us. Reverend Gant, you have your campaign going on down there yourself and fighting the good fight too, might add. Congratulations. You're taking it on. We need you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm just enjoying the show today, so I'm coming in with you all to talk about what we're doing down here and say that we got to do something to stop the violence with the recent shooting that just happened in at another school.
I know it. See, Dr. Boyce, Reverend Gant.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Here's the question of the hour. Okay, we've had 75 school shootings since the last big one. 75 school shootings. Now you know something. I'm like President Obama. I have to stand with him, and I'm gonna stand beyond him, because just to stop the semi-automatic and the automatic weapons is not enough. We got to go much further, because the insanity of it all is that every single day now we're counting more and more body bags from gun violence. People are even shooting police. Okay, in Nevada, at a Walmart. I mean, this is out of control, and it is the gun. I don't care what people say. Second Amendment rights notwithstanding, we have got to take this on head on. NRA, you're in the way. We got to come after you. Because what Reverend Gant is doing down there in Atlanta, Georgia, he's taking it on. He's got to go back to the street, folks. SCLC is known because they got off the sidewalk and into the street and made a declaration of war against poverty, against violence, against racism. I mean, and now this gun issue is beyond control. And it's not going to get any better until we start eliminating the guns. What do you say, Reverend Reverend Boyce?
Okay.
Go ahead.
One of the significant things while you were on the break that I began to reflect, and I thought about the train ride down to North Carolina when we passed by some fields that had KKK burnt in them.
Yes.
And it was a unique experience for myself and my mom. In fact, we were told as children that we were not allowed to go into the South. My family is a Caribbean background, but I'm the second generation. And the 60s, of course, that was a time when, people were concerned about, taking a stand against discrimination. We marched at a period, but 68 was like, we've got to do something at the next level.
Yes.
And so what was unique about both Palmer and Laurinburg is that embrace, in other words, that we were not getting in our high schools and in our other levels of schooling. It was a detachment. And what I am saying is to connect that to what's happening now.
Yes.
We have allowed so many philosophies and doctrines, media, the entertainment industry, movies, to cause us to be detached from our very children.
Yes.
In fact, we're detached from our neighbors. Whereas there was a time when we knew what was happening next door. We had that relationship with the rest of the community. We don't have that now. And if you look at, if I could just zoom in this comment, in the last 10, 15 years, we have brought so many items into our home, and we have not examined the spiritual damage that it has caused our children. We have bought toys in like Pokemon and all those other kinds of things that had significance from its origin. In Japan, it was called something like monster in your back pocket or whatever. They had negative spiritual connotations. But when the marketers have their hand on something that they can make a dollar on, they could care less about the impact on the public.
Right, and today's
I'm sorry?
Today's games are all about killing somebody. Every game that's on the PlayStation, you know, is it any wonder that a child who grows up is inoculated against violence by engaging in nothing but shooting to kill, and then not realizing that when it happens, it's over. It's done. Your life is gone.
What about the shaping of females?
Yes.
How are females presented in this day and age?
We are attacking women all around the world. In India, there are gang rapes.
And it is all around the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Reverend Gant.
We're excited about, oh God, I forget what we used to call that, but it's kind of, it's like sleaze programming.
Yeah, it is.
We're excited about it.
Right.
You know, we're excited when we can see women in conflict with one another.
Right.
And we ourselves adapt those kind of personalities, because it's all about arriving. You know, in the 80s, we thought we arrived.
Yes.
And we thought arriving meant now we become the worst in our oppressor.
Right. Now, Reverend Gant.
Yes.
Reverend Gant, down in Atlanta, Georgia, you got a campaign that's going on right now. I know about. You've been on my show, and I really appreciate you keeping us alive and abreast of the situations down there in Douglaston and DeKalb County and Cobb County. I mean, you're taking on Metro Atlanta as it needs to be. So tell me what's going on, Reverend Gant.
Well, we're taking it to the streets. You know, we had to come outside of our church walls, and we had to come out there to where the people are. And we are trying to reach the unreachable. We're trying to reach those that don't go to church. We're trying to reach those that won't come to our community meeting. Right. So we're using live entertainment, and we're using skits and plays. All of this is done by other young people reaching out to our youth, and they're saying, you know, to stop the violence. So each one of them are writing songs about stopping the violence. They're putting on skits about stopping the violence. It's a very powerful event, and so that's what we're trying to do now. But I wanted to ask Dr. Boyce about something about the psychological effects that's on our children growing up in this violent culture. You know, I'm seeing these young people suffering from the same effects as combat soldiers. You know, suffering from combat battle fatigue.
Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Young teenagers.
That's right. So.
You know, if we start very basic, understanding about Black history, because we talked about standing on the shoulders of people who experienced turmoil and crisis, but they were able to survive. When you're talking about Black history, you're talking about people who knew God, had a connection with God, and so they used the churches as a not only a filling station, but that was the entertainment and the community. So I applaud you for breaking down the walls and allowing the community to see that our God is a big God. Let me interject. This year we lost Ophelia DeVore. We lost Amir Baraka, and now Maya Angelou. And there are others.
Yeah.
But these are people who did the same, took their God-given gifts and talents and used it in a way to show love so that it can touch the starving, the soul who is starving spiritually, okay, and therapeutically. It's starving, to show that you can rise above your circumstance. In the late 60s and 70s, Amir and so many others used entertainment in the same way, because we are a musical people. We are a creative people. We are people who understand our oral tradition well. And so it's important that we take this love that we have contained within us, and that we walk on those shoulders into the community and say, your life is not much different. It isn't much different from this giant's shoulder that I'm standing on. Absolutely. They experience the same kind of thing, but I've come here to show you
the love that your very soul is starving for.
Well,
They are starving.
Dr. Boyce and Reverend Gant, one thing that is consistent. Now, Reverend Gant, you talked about post-traumatic stress syndrome that our soldiers are experiencing once they get back. Dr. DeJury, a good friend of mine, wrote a book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And it really is about the trauma coming up off the plantation, coming into our communities, getting beyond the Willie Lynch syndrome. Okay? And what we are witnessing is because we have not addressed this issue in our schools, in our public education, it is coming back to bite us in the butt. This is exactly what this is all about, and the destruction of our public educational system is not an accident. It is predetermined by those who want to continue to destroy our ancestry and our communities. I got to take a break here, folks, and when we come back, we're going to continue this because I got another piece of history I have got to share with you so that we can put it all into context. I appreciate both of you all taking the time to really dig deep and dive into this crisis process. We got to overcome it, folks. You're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. Don't go away. Stay right tuned to the BCS Experience. We'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed on GoPro Radio Network shows are solely those of the speakers and are not necessarily the views or opinions of GoPro Radio Networks, Inc. or its affiliates. These broadcasts are provided on the understanding that they do not constitute professional advice or services. Individuals who speak in these broadcasts express their own opinions, experiences, and conclusions. GoPro Radio Networks and its affiliates do not necessarily endorse or oppose any particular opinion or conclusion discussed in these broadcasts. You may not edit, modify, or redistribute these broadcasts in any way without the express permission of GoPro Radio Networks, Inc. GoPro Radio Networks assumes no liability for any of your activities in connection with these broadcasts or for your use of these broadcasts in connection with your website, computer, or playing device.
Hello everyone, I'm Dashan Farad. Would you like to listen to a show that delves into issues affecting people of African descent across the globe? Or better yet, would you like to discuss politics, sports, and world affairs from a black perspective? If so, my show is the show for you. Tune in to Worldwide with Dashan Farad, Wednesdays live at 6 p.m. on the GoPro Radio Network. And always remember, I'm just a brother.
You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. If you want to call and talk to us and how you're dealing with the crisis, the number to dial is 347-884-9839. I've got my good friends, Reverend Dr. DLC Boyce, who's here in Brooklyn, New York, and Reverend Gant, who's down in Atlanta, Georgia, working with SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Both of these ministers are indulging and dealing with the crises in America. Guns, violence, hatred, bigotry, racism, the war against women. But here's another piece of history, because we got to connect these dots, folks. The date, it's Sunday. It's June the 11th, the year 1854. You see, on this date, it marks the birth of Olivia Davidson Washington. She was a black educator and administrator and a critical factor in the creation and success of Tuskegee Institute with her peer and husband, Booker T. Washington. The daughter of an ex-slave and freeborn mother, Elias and Eliza, Davidson was one of 7 children born in Virginia. The entire family migrated to southern Ohio in 1857, where Elias died, prompting Eliza to settle further north in Albany and Athens. This area was influential as an environment for Olivia's education at the Enterprise Academy, an atmosphere of strong anti-slavery sentiment, the site for 3 routes of the Underground Railroad. Davison knew and interacted with many Oberlin College liberals and the ever-changing urban area. She began teaching at the age of 16 in Ohio and Mississippi. In 1886, she addressed the Alabama State Teacher Association on the topic, "How shall we make the woman of our race stronger?" stating that the way to improve the situation for Black Americans was to work with the girls who were the hope of the race. And after 2 years in the Magnolia State, Davidson accepted employment in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a challenging time due to the worst 4-year financial period in the city's history and a yellow fever epidemic in 1878. She was on summer break in Ohio when the epidemic broke out. Davison offered her services as a nurse, but was advised to spend time studying at Hampton Normal A&I as Agriculture and Institute in Virginia. Mrs. Rutherford B. Hayes financed Davidson's scholarship to Hampton. She delivered her class commencement address. Booker T. Washington, class of 1875, was the postgraduate speaker at the ceremony. She further studied at the Framingham State Normal School, but she was ill upon her departure, and the first sign of her failing her health, soon after, she left for Tuskegee, where she served as teacher, curriculum specialist, principal, fundraiser, and builder, as well as confidant, wife, and mother. Davidson and Washington were wed in August of 1886. She was stepmother to his daughter Portia and gave birth to 2 sons, Booker Jr. and Ernest. She died on May 9, 1889. Olivia Davison's story examines one of the many missing women in history. Her accomplishments were many. Among them, she was co-founder of an institution that prospers today, better known as Tuskegee Institute. Wow, what a powerful woman. I want to hear from you, so let's connect the dots and make sense out of it all. You can call me. The number is 347-884-9839. We know that you are dealing with the crisis. We know some of it is so overwhelming that you don't know how to take a step towards liberating yourself from the pain and the hurt. But we have Reverend Dr. D.L.C. Boyce, a Christian certified psychotherapist. We have Reverend Dr. Lionel Gant on the phone as well, calling from Atlanta, Georgia, working with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Both of these persons are dealing with the crises, and how do we handle it? Dr. Boyce, Reverend Gant, I'm telling you, we got some stuff going on out here in the world.
Yes, we do.
It's some
I
heavy
wanted
times.
to mention
Yes.
that this summer, actually the month of July, and then again for starting in September for a year, that I'm starting a summer boot camp, and I'm not starting it actually. We've had several pilots, so that we could gather a few and be able to hear some of their experiences and their issues, make the attempt to identify stumbling blocks, areas that have prevented them from being able to do their best, or to identify, we help them to clear the clutter and to identify the gift that God has placed in them, and then we help them to feel the strength and the empowerment of the Word so that they can step out. We have many talented, many gifted, many anointed people who have been in bondage over these years. They have
They wanted to step out and speak. You know, again, I applaud you, Reverend Gant, that they wanted to come beyond the four walls of their church or even the four walls of their apartment to offer help. But, you know, if I could interject Harriet Tubman's statement, she said she would have freed many more slaves. Many of them didn't know that they were slaves.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes. So Reverend Gant, go ahead, Dr. Boyce. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How we're living is Lynch in the year 2000. They've got all of these systems to keep us divided from one another. And so very often, you know, our kids they themselves are looking to see when the adults will grow up. We know they look at those who have come through a 60s and 70s experience, and they are weighty. And when they don't get the kind of response where we say, look, I'm taking this out into the community, then they fall prey to hanging pants and that's just a minuscule. And they're prey to all other kinds of things because we're not embracing them with the love of God and the love of our giants, the experiences of our giants. Because Black history is a history steeped in God. I mean, you don't talk about a giant in Black history without discussing a faith move. You know, in change, you are inventing and creating things and changing lives. And like Jason in the Bible, turning lives upside down. So we intend to gather a few in July to train them up so that they could be meet for the kingdom in September, and maybe offer their gifts and talents to others who are coming. You remember the old expression, "Each one teach one"?
Yes.
I mean, we've got to go back in our treasure chest of Black history and pull out those things that pulled us out.
That's right. So when is the session supposed to start, Dr. Boyce, the boot camp?
It's June 30th. It's 4 days a week, 4 hours. 4 weeks, 4 days, 2 hours a day.
Okay.
That's the summer boot camp.
And the contact information?
In September, it's on Saturdays.
The contact information for that?
Yes, it is Let's Talk You, or Let's Talk with Dr. DLC Boyce. It's I'm on Facebook. You can pull up information there. The phone number is 718-916-8763. You can email me a request for information at Acts chapter 2, just like in the scripture, Inc. at AOL and or at Verizon.
Okay. All right.
But it's important that we connect. They left us a roadmap.
That's right.
Amir Baraka did not leave here without Dr. King, Malcolm. They left us Shirley Chisholm. I mean, we could just go down the whole line.
Absolutely.
They left us a roadmap.
And that's why the importance of the Underground Railroad really is and has not gone away. We actually have the concept still very much alive today. My show, for instance, is the New Underground Railroad Express. Reverend Gant, his work in the field down in SCLC in Metro Atlanta are stops along the Underground Railroad, getting people the advice that they need to how to get to freedom and to Freedom Land and to escape the oppression and the violence and the racism and the hatred and the bigotry, because you cannot do it by yourself. You must have a corporate community assist you escape that slavery. Reverend Gant, that's what you're doing. I appreciate you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's not easy.
Well, Dr. Boyce, she hit it dead on the head. That's what we took that strategy of using education is our most powerful weapon in this fight against violence in our community and economic empowerment. We got to put something in place where our children are creating income, and if they're not able to get any jobs, then we're going to have to do something to create these jobs in our community, because it takes money to live in America, and our young men, nobody wants to be involved with a young man that's broke. Don't nobody want a man that's out there that ain't got no money. So they're doing everything in their power to get money, and sadly enough, most of them are turning to violence and they're turning to crime, and this is affecting us too much in our community. So we try to come up with a strategy to counteract that in our community.
You know, one of the things that I got to take a break in a minute, but one of the things that's really got rubbing my rhubarb the wrong way these days is this incident with the NBA and the Sacramento Kings and Sterling. Okay, all right, because at the point of it all, this man is about to walk away with $2 billion when he only paid $15 million for the team in the first place, and he's about to walk away with $2 billion to be paid to be a bigot and a racist. There is something wrong with that picture, folks. We're going to talk about that. I got to take a break. When we come back, you see, we got to deal with these issues, people. We can't stop playing the games. Okay? You're being suckered into, the Clippers are in such bad shape. You know what? We got worse things happening. But we're going to talk about it right here on the BCS Experience. Don't go away. You're listening to the BCS Experience on the GoPro Radio Network. I want to talk back with you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a great opportunity. If you have a product or a service, a talent or something important to say, now's your chance to have your very own radio show. Whether you're just starting out, a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We'll help you to grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 today or visit www.goproradio.com and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your very own show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
You want to know the truth, folks? Do you really want to know the truth? Well, perhaps you can't handle the truth. But if you can listen to GoPro Radio. Tune in at www.goproradio.com. Now, have I made myself clear?
GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head. I know I do.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
All right, we're back on the BCS Experience. I'm Byron C. Saunders, your host with the most. I've got two of my really dear friends on the phone with me in New York, the Reverend Dr. D.L.C. Boyce, Let's Talk You, and my good friend, Reverend Dr. Am I giving you the doctorate? Yeah, I'm going to give you the doctorate as well, Reverend Dr. Lionel Gant, down in Atlanta, Georgia, with Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Both of these individuals are addressing the issues in our neighborhood. Yes, you may not know them. Yes, you know of Al Sharpton. But you know there's some folks behind Al Sharpton. There's some folks behind Roland Martin. There's some folks behind Jesse Jackson and Andrew Young. These are people that came up behind them. These were mentored by these folks. And they're still out here fighting the good fight. And folks, like I said before the break, this thing about the basketball, man, y'all better wake up. Because those athletes are making enough money where they should have put their money together and said, you know what, we're going to buy our team. We don't need to be anybody else's slave. Because they're just going from one master to the next. Guaranteed. The new one, the one who's buying the team for $2 billion, he's going to be called Master 2. And they're still going to be just what they are, paid slaves. Billions of dollars just to be paid to get out of the league, but paid to be a bigot. Reverend Gant, you're going to have to talk to them young men about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Boyce. I mean, because it's a wrong image. Foundation. That's right. It's a bad image.
You got to have a foundation. You have to have. It's funny. Dr. Bernard, Al Bernard he did a little chart on Sunday, and he asked the church, first the men and then the women, to identify what they valued: integrity, health, family. There were 5 things on the list, and a career. And it was interesting how the results came out, and surprising. And so, on the man's side, men were looking for women to have a career in etc. But the main thing, and then women were looking for another area. I don't want to just misquote it, but what they both stood solidly on is that they wanted someone who knew their God, because he put spirituality up there, and it was equal. That in that, and I sat through 2 services. It came out the same in both. Wow. And so we wanted to be careful. Something we did in the 80s was to put money before God.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
And that is, I mean, so you have folks selling their souls, and people who know that's, we've divided your community based on that, and that, so therefore for money you will do anything. And when you have that, there where you begin to start breaking down in the community as well, and you fool young people to think that if you have millions of dollars, then your life is going to be, all intact. Right. And it's a big lie.
It really is.
It's a very big lie.
Reverend Gant, you're dealing with the young men mostly in Atlanta. And I know their eyes are filled with that basketball, football, baseball. Y'all tore down Friendship Baptist Church. And okay, and listen, I know the history, and it breaks my heart to see what's going on, because when you start tearing down our spiritual institutions to put up a football stadium that's not going to last as long as that spiritual institution was grounded in, where Morris Brown College got started, Reverend Gant, we got some issues here, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're gonna have to go back to the old landmarks. We're gonna have to go back to using education to bring our children out. We have to let them know that there's more to life than just sports and my wife had an interesting theory about that whole issue with the basketball team.
Yes.
And even the fact that they used a racial incident to bring it forward. Now look, this team's selling for much more than any other team have ever sold for in history because of this big scandal.
That's right.
So maybe just by bringing up the scandal and putting it out there, they were able to make merchandise. They were able to make money off of this deal. And now our athletes are still we're not even nowhere close to that kind of money. Absolutely. We're not even up there in the industry in that way. And so this should be a big wake up call to our professional athletes and those that have retired from the sports, that we need to look at these things.
Absolutely.
Because it's just another form of slavery.
It's another form of slavery, folks, and that other form of slavery that's going on right now is those reality shows, Housewives of Atlanta. Come on, folks, let's get real. You're watching our people getting paid to act like niggas. I hate to say it.
TV.
That's what it is.
On TV.
We don't want to hear the N-word anymore, but they're paying them to act like niggas. We gotta stop it.
And then they indicate they don't. Once they get the audience, then they don't need them anymore.
They don't need that. Listen, I gotta wrap this up, folks. Dr. Boyce, you got a new book you're about to open and have book signing this weekend. Come on, tell me about that, because I gotta start wrapping this up. I got about 3 minutes to go. So what's going on?
Okay. Well, it's called Ministry Begins After the Fall. And it introduces 2 characters called Minus and Knowledge. And it's a book that talks about what a church is. People attend, but, what is a church? And it also discusses what ministry is. We just came through Pentecost Sunday.
Right.
And so this book takes it from the Garden of Eden, let's get back to Eden, and then it pulls it right through Pentecost, through change. And it is something that can be shared with anyone. How often do we share our Christian faith with other folks? And it stands on the heels this weekend. I'm also presenting the other two books, Parenting Awareness for Disconnected Fathers, and of course the one that another work on for 20 years that I completed, Our Children Want to Know Why. It's a formula, technically. And so I'm doing a book signing in Canarsie. It is at Let's Talk to You, 920 East 107th Street. In Brooklyn, 2 blocks from Christian Cultural Center. It's between Flatlands Avenue and Avenue J, and it starts at 1. It's from 1 to 4 p.m. We will also, at that time, talk about registration for the summer boot camp.
Okay. All right. You can get all this information on Facebook, Reverend Dr. DLC Boyce. She has a Facebook page. All of that information is there. Reverend Gant, you got your work there. What's the phone number to get in contact with Metro Atlanta, the SCLC organization down there that you're working with? What's that number?
It's 404-839-6511.
We're going to continue
404-839-6511. Yeah.
We're going to continue this conversation again, Reverend Gant and Reverend Dr. DLC Boyce, because we have got to have you guys come back on. This is about spirituality, folks. You know, the civil rights movement could not have moved a step forward without spiritual guidance. And if you think
we couldn't have gotten to the Black Power movement either. Let me just say this one last scripture. What profited a man if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul?
There you have it, folks. You've been listening to the BCS Experience. GoProRadio.com's your social networks live talk radio show, produced and sponsored by BW Moving Images. Tylon U. Savior, Washington producer. Shauna L. Glover, online engineer. Well, actually, Tatiana Washington. She's the best. I'm telling you, she keeps me in line. Tiana Washington, thank you so very much. A special thank you to the Jazz Lounge Project and Andrew Julian Myers for my fabulous show's theme music and background music that you were listening to throughout the show. Listen, your support of BW Moving Images is so important. Get a copy of Disappearing Voices, The Decline of Black Radio. It talks about why it is important that we have the GoPro Radio Network. We are the fastest growing network in the galaxy. This network is stay tuned because you're going to get more and more from us as the year progresses. Don't go away. Stay on the network because my show is followed by Black Agenda TV Express from 6 to 6:30, and then the Earl Morgan Hour from 7 to 8, and then Kate Thompson Live right here from 9 to 10, and then you know you have to get that new recipe for next week right here on Food Rap with Shauna L. Glover and Nina Marcal. And then before you go to bed and say goodnight to your significant other, you got to listen to the Sexy Party Show. Then you can do what you got to do. Anyway, it's been great. I'm Byron C. Saunders. It's been all about the BCS Experience. Join me next Wednesday when my very special guest will be you, my audience. I appreciate you so very much. Thank you for showing me the love, because I continue to give you nothing but love. I appreciate it. You continue to get your culture and your history right here from me and learn how it impacts on our lives today. Until then, I'm out of here for the moment. Peace and love.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.